Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So every so often I have to ask myself, what on earth are we doing to our kids? When it comes to these school boards, when it comes to these school districts, why are we doing this to children? It seems that some school boards are intent on pushing gender ideology onto children. They're putting kids in very difficult situations. They're putting them in situations that make them more vulnerable. And at certain times, it has gone terribly wrong. It's almost as if these kids are collateral damage in pushing this agenda. The desires and wants of a certain minority seem to supersede the rights of everybody else, seems to supersede the rights of people to feel secure and safe when they're going around the school, when they're going into locker rooms, when they're going into bathrooms. Apparently, feeling secure and safe in the locker room doesn't matter anymore. As long as people's genders are affirmed, as long as people's identities are validated. Never mind whether somebody feels safe and comfortable. And I'm not just talking about females now. So in Loudon County, we have a father who is taking on a school board and sticking up for his son because he's saying his son is uncomfortable with being forced to share a locker room with a female, with a natural-born female who supposedly identifies as a male. Now it's the boys' locker rooms that we have to be concerned with as well. And this isn't to say that certain groups are dangerous. That's not what this is about. This is about what is practical. This is about being sensitive to people's needs, to people's concerns, and not dismissing them just because you want to appeal to a certain group, just because you want a virtue signal. And you have to ask the question, what needs to happen before these school boards come to their senses? In this same county, there have been essays. There's a $30 million lawsuit going on at the moment, which I'm going to get into. So let's take a look at this story now, the current story about a father taking on a school board to stand up for his son who was uncomfortable with being forced to share a locker room with a girl.
This Loudon County father says his son, who is on a high school athletic team, and his teammates are sharing the boys' locker room at a Loudon County public school with a biologically female student who is on the team.
He's known this person since he was 6 or 7. And I've asked him about this person, and he said they're very nice people. He has no grudge about the person, the personality, how they want to live their life. It's more an invasion of privacy. It's about being uncomfortable, changing in front of the opposite sex, period.
This father decided to speak to 7 News after learning how uncomfortable his son and teammates are.
There were about 20, 25 players surrounding my truck to discuss this issue. And of course, leaning on parents to bring light to it. It's a sensitive subject. Everybody in this world is created equally and should be treated as such. I think as a baseline argument, we all know that. When it affects children in a negative impact, especially your own children, that's when the game changes.
2 years ago, the Loudon County School Board voted 7-2 to adopt a policy that allows transgender and non-binary students to use the locker rooms and bathrooms of their choice at school.
I'm going to support this policy to fight for all kids.
At a meeting Thursday night, school board members Harris Mahadavi and Erica Ogadegbe decided to review the policy after the November 7th election. But one Loudon County resident asked the school board members to continue to support the current policy.
Young kids' policies may yet be forced upon us, but don't make it easy. Stand up and stand for public education.
These school board members are seeking re-election this year. This father believes the Loudon County School Board won't reverse its decision unless voters choose different school board members. And he hopes more parents and students will stand up.
Why does my son lose his privacy right by walking through a school door? He shouldn't, but that's his gripe. I'm a 14-year-old boy now changing with someone of the opposite sex. Put yourself in that position when you were 14. That's what the school board is failing to do. They're failing to put the shoe on the other foot and get perspective from different students.
Nick Minock, 7 News.
So the school board voted 7-2 to allow students to use the bathroom of their choice, essentially, regardless of your sex. That's basically what they have voted for. Never said there were any qualifications, Whether somebody has to identify as trans and be on a certain journey towards their transition. None of that was stipulated. It's just, whatever you identify as, you're allowed to use that bathroom. That's what you're creating. And as this father rightly said, essentially, his son is losing his right to privacy as soon as he enters into that school. As soon as you enter into that school, whether you're male or female, the person of the opposite sex is allowed to be in the same bathroom as you, is allowed to be in the same locker room as you. We heard what happened in the NCAA swimming. These young women were forced to share a locker room with Leah Thomas. We're going to be hearing more stories like this now as these school districts lose their minds. And if you say anything, you're a bigot. If you say anything, you are the one who is a dangerous person. You are the one who is causing harm. The father said his son has no problem with this individual, but this is a female on a team of boys. But now, the thing that people aren't acknowledging is the locker room situation. When we say that a person who identifies as a certain sex magically becomes that sex, we're not living in reality. So now she's allowed to go into the boys' locker room. Never mind how it makes those boys feel and the situation you're putting those boys in, the awkward situation you're putting them in, which is completely unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. So I really hope the board members who are all for this do not get re-elected. This is the time for people to use their common sense and vote according to safety, vote according to privacy, vote according to science, biology, as long as it's on the side that protects children. This is for everybody's safety, including the trans-identified individual too, because we can't blur the lines like this. At some point, somebody with bad intentions is going to take advantage of these stupid rules. None of those 7 members who voted for this can guarantee that somebody with bad intentions is not going to take advantage, is not going to exploit these rules to gain access to where they should not be. None of them can guarantee that. Yet they're okay with putting our children in vulnerable situations. This is a terrible experiment that has already shown signs of going terribly wrong. Not just in the US, in other countries too, in the UK. After essays started occurring, there were at least 2, they backtracked real quick. Now, in the same county, we have a $30 million lawsuit going on. But basically, a trans-identified individual who was given access to the women's bathroom took advantage, and a young woman ended up being assaulted.
The Loudon County School Board voting against releasing an internal report on their handling of 2 sexual assaults. Parents and community members have been calling for more transparency from that school board for months. So for more on this, we are joined by Ian Pryor, Executive Director of Fight for Schools. Ian, this report was commissioned by the district to go over how it handled these 2 assaults by the same student and whether questions of whether or not the school was competent in how they dealt with these incidents. I know this report was finished in January of last year, and we've seen parents and activists pushing for its release for a year now, and then we get this vote. Why is the board rejecting? Why are they deciding not to release it? And are parents going to be able to have confidence that their kids are safe, not knowing?
Well, those are all great questions, and that's right. I mean, they commissioned this report in October of 2021, actually, and they waited to announce that they had commissioned this report until after Glenn Youngkin and Jason Miyares had been elected. So that was suspicious, number one. And then in January of 2021, we tried to FOIA it. We tried to sue for it over their attorney-client privilege claims. We weren't successful, but we certainly assumed that at some point, especially after the special grand jury report came back, then the superintendent and spokesperson were indicted, that they would release this report. In fact, several of the school board members in a December meeting said that they would be in favor of releasing this report. Yet we get to February when they actually have to vote on it, and some of those same school board members turned around and voted no. So you had I believe it was 5 Democrats and 1 Republican voting against releasing the report, and 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat voting for it. Look, I think the bottom line here is that you've got a special grand jury report that's very detailed. My personal opinion is that they think that there might be some things in this report that were communicated under the cloak of attorney-client privilege that may be different than how things were communicated to the special grand jury. And that could be a problem for them. But I don't think there's going to be trust in this school board until there's a new group of people there, because quite frankly, they've shown a complete unwillingness to be transparent, accountable, and responsible to their constituents.
That's an interesting point you make there, because what we've seen reported is that some people didn't want it released because of concerns that attorney-client privilege would have been revealed, or details that students maybe wouldn't want out would get revealed, and then also this concern that it was commissioned under a superintendent who has since been fired. But you're saying that you think if it comes out, maybe it'll show that their testimony in court wasn't completely accurate. Is that right?
Well, certainly the testimony of the administrators that testified both at the special grand jury, but also talked to these lawyers. But I do find it interesting, one of the school board members who voted against the report and said, well, this was commissioned under Superintendent Ziegler, who we fired. Well, yeah, that same school board member also knew everything that was in this report and still voted to give him a raise. So, that rings hollow. We had another school board member who won election for a one-year term, a special election in November, who campaigned on releasing this report. And then she said it again in December that she supports releasing the report. Yet when push came to shove and she had to vote on it, she said, I'm going to vote no. I don't want to release a redacted version. Well, a redacted version would be better than no version at all. So, look, I don't know who got to these individuals.
Are you pushing for at least a redacted version?
Sure, yeah. I think that a redacted version, with names redacted is perfectly acceptable. And I think you look at, the history of how these things have happened all across the country, whether it's Penn State, Michigan State, Ohio State, that have had their own scandals, other schools, they always release their report to make sure that the public trusts what has happened and has a full understanding of what has gone on. What makes Loudon County Public Schools so special that they don't have to do what just about every other school in this situation does?
Well, we will certainly be interested to see what follows. Keep us posted on any efforts to get that redacted version.
What on earth is going on in Loudon County? How disturbing is that? Not only do they make decisions that put our kids in more vulnerable situations, that have put these two young women who were essayed in a vulnerable situation and led to them being assaulted. Not only were they responsible for that, they're now trying to hide information from parents by not releasing this report, not even a redacted version. I don't know how any parent could send their kids to a school in that county. I really don't. It's not so easy for everybody to just homeschool. So I'm not going to be like one of these people who say homeschool, homeschool. Not everybody, has that option available to them right now. But it makes me not want to even think of kids going to these schools in that county, because something very sinister is going on. And why would anybody vote to keep this report from being released? They've already been exposed as making reckless decisions that have put kids in danger. They've already been exposed for that. So what else are they trying to hide? So I'm just going to read a little bit about the lawsuit. So the family of a teenage girl who was raped in a high school bathroom is suing Loudon County Public Schools in Virginia for $30 million over accusations the school district failed to adequately investigate and that it attempted to cover up the SA. So the Northern Virginia district garnered national attention after a father, Scott Smith, made allegations at a June 2021 school board meeting that it covered up his daughter's SA from May 28 of that year. And that was absolutely heartbreaking to see that father speak about what his daughter went through. Absolutely heartbreaking. When he alleges a biological boy wearing a skirt raped her in the girls' bathroom at Stonebridge High School, Smith said the district had attempted to cover up his daughter's assault to push its controversial transgender bathroom policy, which faced parental protests at LCPS school board meetings that year. And I know the guy was initially arrested because, it was a very heated exchange, as you can imagine, and the police tackled him to the ground. I think there's some footage of it.
Who pays your salary? Shame on you. Wow. Wow.
and gentlemen, this is the unlawful accessory to a room leading to women's conduct, and you will be subject to arrest for trespassing.
Now, hey John, please don't resist. You guys, this is an unlawful arrest. I have a First Amendment right.
Listen, you do, right?
You're right. Okay, thank you. Here's someone speaking rationally.
Listen to me. At this point, the meeting is over, right?
It's not over. It's not over. We were meeting. We were meeting.
So these were the images that came from that board meeting. As you can imagine, he's essentially staring across the room at the people who are responsible for what happened to his daughter. That's essentially what was going on there. And I cannot blame him, and I believe no charges were filed against him. So on the day of the incident, Smith says the school told him to come to the campus because his daughter had been physically assaulted. They did not say she had been SA'd. Once he got there, he says school staff told him they would handle it internally, choosing not to call the police for an as yet unexplained reason. He was enraged by the decision and challenged them on it. The school board then did call the police to report Smith, not the boy, for making a scene. I went nuts. I called the principal, P-word. 6 cop cars showed up like a SWAT team. The school's principal sent out an alert that day, warning parents of what had happened involving Smith. But it said nothing of the SA allegations in the bathroom. So not only do they allow this to happen, they gaslight the guy and basically show more concern about covering their backs than making sure that this young lady is okay, than making sure that she is given the care that she needs and she's able to report this to the police to ensure it doesn't happen again. That was not their concern. Their concern was covering their backs, and probably the predator, the person who was responsible for this, he was probably more of their concern. And now for them to try and hide the report about how they handled this situation. It's like, who do they think they are? You have to be accountable for the decisions you made as a school board. There has to be accountability. And apparently it's not just one assault. There was another assault that occurred where a young woman was dragged into a classroom by the same individual. The student accused of rape was charged after the May assault and barred by court order from returning to Stonebridge. The attacker was then transferred by administrators to another school in the district, Old Run High School, where the student essayed another girl in an empty classroom in October 2021. The attacker, who was 15 at the time, was convicted as a juvenile in both cases. And this person clearly is a predator. They may not have gender dysphoria and all of that. I doubt it. But they've clearly seen a way of getting into the girls' bathroom. They've clearly seen a way of gaining access to where girls are and have taken advantage of that and exploited that. And that's what these rules do. That's why they are wrong. That's why they are dangerous. 2 more assaults have occurred now. This is the same that happened in the UK. The exact same scenario is playing out. And instead of backtracking and saying, you know what, let's take a step back because we are putting our children in danger, they're now trying to cover their backs. I really hope this school board is held accountable. Every one of those members who voted for this, they obviously should not be re-elected. I hope these families are successful with their lawsuit because this school district needs to be punished. It really needs to be punished for what it has done, the danger it's put our children in. So 7 News also spoke to other students who attend different schools in Loudon County. He's not alone in his concerns. 7 News also spoke with a Loudon County student who attends a different school, and she and her teammates are sharing the girls' athletics locker room with a student who identifies as transgender. Knowing that there's a biological male that's changing in a locker room where I'm changing is very uncomfortable. The female student told 7 News reporter Mick Minnock in an interview last week. This needs to be changed because I don't think any girl or boy wants to change with the opposite gender. Her mother told school board members Erica Ojabi and Harris Mahadavi this Thursday night, "I'm asking you to protect my daughter and no longer put her in a compromising position where a boy is in her locker room," she said. "I'm asking you to protect my daughter and other girls in the locker room that are being put in a really crappy position." So it's affecting both girls and boys. And they don't seem to care. They don't seem to have learned from what occurred in various schools within that county. They don't seem to have learned, and it doesn't seem to be a concern to them. They're still doing this. And this school board is still continuing to make bad decisions. What needs to happen before they take a step back? If 2 essays isn't enough, I don't know what is. Parents need to really not allow this to continue, at least with the votes. So my heart goes out to the families who have been affected by this, young women who were violated because of these reckless policies. And I commend the father who's speaking out for his son, the parents who are standing up for their children when it comes to this issue. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.